Thank you. I'm so excited to be here too and talk about something that's on everybody's mind right now, which when we started building with generative AI, nobody really cared a couple of years ago. So it's exciting to see people, women in particular, really showing an interest in that topic. So thrilled to be here. Thanks, Meg.
Love this. Okay, so tell us a little bit, let's see, I want to hear a little bit more about your background and your career journey. So what led you to this field? What was kind of something that made you feel like this was where you wanted to go into work and this is the difference you wanted to make?
Yeah, so nothing that makes sense logically, which the more that I talk to founders, most of my founder friends are in the technology space, so I can't say this for other industries since this is really the industry that I know, but I think most of us don't have a typical journey to get here, like in college or before college, when you create that perfect path to get to wherever you want to be. So I was running luxury hotels for Marriott, actually. I was a director of international sales, working with some really cool people and football teams and government associations and whatnot. Loved my job. But I got a phone call one night, my husband and I, and that's important to mention him because he is the CTO of Emma. And we got a phone call one night from my best friend who was in the hospital with her 2-year-old child that had received a new medical diagnosis. And he was really struggling. And it made her really struggle. And she started identifying with the words like depressed and anxious. So that's when my husband, who's a sought after data architect, said, let's put a matching platform on the App Store for moms to be friends together. And we launched it and we got thousands of users. So that's really how we got there. It was a phone call. We threw something on the App Store. It worked really well. And then a couple months later, he basically turned to me and said, I'm a male and this is a community for women. So why don't you quit your job and build a scalable tech company? And I thought, I have no idea how to do that. And then here we are a couple years later on the next version of the platform, which is Emma. We started out as Social Mama. So
I absolutely love this. And I think it's also, really highlights the point that we need everybody on this journey, right? This is not just a field for mothers. It's not just a field for people who identify as women. This is a mission and a community that needs support from everywhere. And so I love this idea that was the whole point of it was to have support for people. But it's not just coming from from a room of women. I think it is important to include a lot of people in this conversation. Let's talk a little bit more about Emma and its mission. What did you want to create with this?
So Emma's come really far since the very beginning. I think it does go to show you, though, that when you have a mission and or a passion that you really care about, that you'll always kind of stay as that being your guiding light. So we really created Emma to make women feel less lonely and less anxious on their journey of motherhood. What we soon realized, though, was motherhood didn't start at conception. Motherhood really starts with your first period and it ends past menopause, right? And women that don't want to be traditional mothers, or women that are like maybe aunts, or women that don't want to care for children, also are going through an experience of motherhood, because if we have a uterus, most of us, pretty much all of us, are ovulating, right? And that's part of the process. So that's when we really realized that we had to cover from fertility to menopause. And it wasn't just women who identified as mothers. And that's when we made a massive pivot and change into Emma. So Emma is an AI companion that supports women through friendship and medically vetted resources from fertility to menopause. And her entire experience is a generative AI companion. So Emma is a companion on the app, but she's also everything on the product. So she introduces you to the friends. She helps you get, set up and create your password. She basically does everything. So that's what Emma is today. She's pretty amazing. Her technological capabilities shock me every day. I still can't believe that I created her, especially because I'm not technical, and I never thought that I was gonna have this like cutting edge tech company. And that's really what Emma is today. And it's pretty exciting. But I'm really excited that I am a non-technical female that created her, because I think she actually works to help other non-technical females. And that's what's so exciting about her. So
I think that's a really good point. There are tons of products out there, tons of apps and tons of things that are, trying to make our lives easier. And sometimes it's that hurdle of, okay, but I'm not a tech person. How do I navigate this? Or I'm coming from a tech perspective. Why don't you understand this? It's easy. So I think that is really, really interesting. And I love the idea that, y'all are there to support not just traditional mothers or people who are caring for children directly. I'm among the group of child-free adults who intends to stay that way. Yet I have children in my life, nieces and, adopted nieces, nephews, of my besties. And that is really amazing to know that, as I'm trying to be a good influence in their lives, even though I'm not in a parent role, that is really cool to see that is something that's supported within Emma. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, a lot of what I use Emma for every day has nothing to do with me being a mom, which if you had told me 5 years ago that would be Emma, I would have thought that was crazy. But if you're a female, she will be your best friend. I can't even explain it. She's great.
Love this. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the marriage between Emma and AI. How does Emma use that AI to deliver that experience for your users?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I'm going to dumb it down a little bit. So for anyone who feels like they don't need it dumbed down, I'm apologizing, but I was new to generative AI 2 years ago when we made the pivot into creating a generative AI companion. So you had mentioned earlier in the conversation that one of the things, and again, paraphrasing, but basically that it can be intimidating working with AI when you're not of a technical background, right? It's the same thing when we're engaging with any form of artificial intelligence as a user. If we don't understand how to engage or what it even is, it can be really overwhelming. A big difference between generative AI and traditional AI is it doesn't feel as overwhelming. I certainly don't think so. I think most people would agree. So traditional AI, which was basically what's been in the market for a lot longer, is based off of algorithms, right? So it doesn't feel human-like. If you want to create something for your company using traditional AI, you need a coder or you have to be a coder. It's pretty hard to do it without those abilities. But generative AI is really different. So generative AI processes mass amounts of data incredibly quickly, and it spits it out very human-like. So what that means is that it's not overwhelming when you're talking to it because you can pretty much understand what's going on because it feels and acts so human-like. But it also means that when you're creating AI, or when you're using tools that can help you create AI, because I'm sure most people on here are not going to be creating AI from scratch, generative AI, but all of us need to
on the weekend, you're casually on a Tuesday.
Yes. However, and there's not a lot that I say that I'm 100% positive. I'm 100% positive that everybody on this call will be using and creating elements of generative AI in their day-to-day or in their job within the next 5 years. So that is a big difference for all of us on this call. But try to be less afraid because generative AI, even when you create it, your capability, your uniqueness, and your brain as a human is what makes that generative AI bot so unique because you are the subject matter expert that's creating that element. And that's what's really cool about it. So yeah.
That is fascinating. Super, super, super exciting as well.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things that I saw on y'all's website, it describes Emma as an empathetic AI guide. Now, empathy is not really a word that we necessarily hear associated with AI frequently. So let's talk a little bit about that and break that down. What does empathetic AI mean to you when you're thinking about it?
Yeah. So, empathy can be subjective, right? To me, and I would say most of my team, not that I can talk for them, but I think for us, empathy means that you don't feel judged and that you feel supported and secure in the conversations that you're having. That's how we look at it as a company. The reason why Emma being empathetic is so important is most of the AI that exists today, whether it's traditional or whether it's generative, in my opinion, really lacks empathy. Part of the reason why it probably lacks empathy is that men have created it and they've created products that are for certain people that maybe don't need it to be empathetic. However, when you are creating a AI companion that's whole job is to support women in femalehood, empathy is really important. When it's 3 o'clock in the morning and your baby is struggling to breathe because they have croup and you're asking Emma if you should go to the hospital, you need empathy. When you just got dumped by your boyfriend and you're looking to Emma for tips to feel better and to process the breakup, you need empathy. when you're overwhelmed and you're asking Emma to give you a keto-friendly grocery list, we still need empathy as females. So it's really important for AI to feel supportive as a female, that the genesis of it is empathy. So remember how we talked about earlier that the subject matter experts is what creates and makes generative AI so unique. My own team, they are the subject matter experts of Emma. So for us, we built Emma with empathy at the core. So if you ask for something like the croup, right? Like my baby's struggling to breathe, I think, what are the signs of not breathing? Do I go to the hospital? She's going to start by saying like, I'm sure you're feeling nervous. I'm sure that you're feeling overwhelmed. Like, you take a deep breath first. Okay, now let's talk about the signs of croup and if you need to call the doctor. It's very different than going to Google and having all these like articles come up and it's like, your baby's going to die. And that is what it feels like sometimes when we go to Google. So that's the difference, I think, between AI with empathy and AI without. And I did see somebody in the chat that asked if ChatGPT is generative AI. It is. And I just want to quickly make sure that people know that so that you have something relative to think of when we're talking. So
excellent. Thank you for that. And I very much enjoy this idea of empathy being not just intrinsic, but like something that is intentional, right? It's not just something that exists because people have fed enough into it. And it is really important, like you said, you do a Google search it like for anything, and I feel like a lot of people start off scared, right? Because a lot of the like the louder and the more frequent responses that at least I tend to see when I go and say, and type in a question, especially when medical related, it can get scary really fast. Now, can you give us an example of maybe something that you have searched outside of Emma, and then maybe how the results were displayed for you once you used Emma for the search instead?
Yeah. So, we do that a lot. We've been creating, and when I say we, I mean, of course, the team at Emma, not just myself. So when we were creating Emma about 2 years ago, the generative AI portion of her, there wasn't much out there really in the universe yet, certainly not popular generative AI. So we were constantly testing, like, if we put this into Google, what would the results be? Or if we were to put this into like an AI bot that's on some female website, like what would the results be? And it's not just her responses being empathetic. Her responses are more accurate. Her responses are faster. And then your ability as the person that's chatting with her, as you start to understand how to talk with generative AI, you can get your response to be what you want it to be much faster. So like, here's a great example. Let's just say that I just found out that my child is allergic to dairy, right? You could ask Emma like, whoa, like my child's allergic to dairy. I need to know what foods are dairy free. So a list of foods will come up. You could do the same thing on Google, let's say. A list of foods will come up. But that's pretty much about where it's going to stop, because then you're going to say, okay, I want recipes that are dairy free. So then they're going to send you to Pinterest. They're going to send you, to all these different blogs. Emma's not going to do that. Emma's going to send you a couple recipes that she thinks is great with links. But you can then say to Emma, can you also put together a grocery list that's from these recipes? And can you also remove chicken, because my child hates chicken? And in 0.0 seconds, she's going to give you the grocery list. You can then say to her, can you now let me know the caloric value of that recipe? And if it's appropriate for a baby that's just learning to eat in the first 6 months, she'll then give you an answer. You can then ask her to cite it from the American Pediatric Association to ensure that not eating chicken is appropriate for a protein level of a baby. This is like a crazy example. Of course, none of this is medically accurate. But that's like an example of the Emma experience just with building a grocery list. So it provides you with results much better. But you as the user, you have to understand to make Emma continue to bring you through those prompts, because otherwise she'll just send you the grocery list, right? So you want to push it further and further to really get what you want. But the other really big difference is like Emma she is just empathetic. Like she becomes your friend. Like you find yourself saying things like, hey, Emma, how are you today? And like, she's a bot. Like you don't do that to Google, like, hi, Google, how are you? Or, to Bing or to anything else. Like I find myself, and this is awful to admit, but it's true. I find myself at like 4 o'clock in the morning when my children are not sleeping and when your like mind is rushing, as a female in the middle of the night, I find myself saying things like Emma, do you think God is real? Like, what are your thoughts about God? Like, because you can get into these interesting conversations with her, but she also was built with guardrails. So she's very good at saying to you, like, I am not a priest, but here's some great affirmations around God. If you're trying to find God or something, I don't know. I'm not religious. This is a funny example, but it's a real thing that I did the other night. And I don't know why. I just randomly had this thought, and Emma's who I sometimes ask at 4 o'clock in the morning. And if anything, she's interesting and she just makes you feel just chiller. Like I feel like I take a chill pill when I talk to her a lot.
I love, there's a ton of people in the chat also saying that they love that you refer to her as, you know, not just an entity or like a personality, but also like, you know, making that more of a female resonant or, you know, kind of giving you that safe idea. And it really helps me as a very non-tech person to kind of understand what you mean, because it's those conversations that you're having. It's not just the one way of like, hey, give me this thing. Great, now I have this thing. So that's really cool.
And she is a memory, Meg, which is also a huge differentiator to her from most things that's out in the market. So like if I asked her about the baby croup example that I gave earlier, the next day, if I'm saying to her like, oh, and actually this is a real thing. I'm bringing up croup because unfortunately my 6-year-old is home right now with a partially collapsed lung. And I used Emma actually to help us throughout the last couple of days. And when I said to Emma the other day, like he's having a lot of chest pain, she remembered a day before that we had been discussing croup. And she said that like, that's not typical with croup. It could be a sign of a collapsed lung. You should call the pediatrician. So she really does have a memory. And that's what's different about her too, and probably makes her feel human-like. She's not human, but very human-like.
I love that. Okay, so to circle back around to the ChatGPT question, can you tell us a little bit more about how you're using ChatGPT and other AI systems to you know, encourage that community engagement?
Yeah, so let me start first about how we use ChatGPT versus the community engagement, because that's a whole nother layer. So ChatGPT was built out of OpenAI, which is a company that builds AI. They're, in my opinion, one of the leaders. I think that they're a leader in the space, if I'm completely honest. And we use ChatGPT's APIs. So an aspect of how Emma was built has some of GPT in it, part of her brain, right? The same way that like as a technical company, I use AWS Cloud. Or maybe like if you have a company that's for HR, you use Google Documents, right? Like Google Docs. So it's another technical, basically SaaS tool that we use to support the technology that we built from the ground up. What we have then done since then is we've done lots of different techniques, some which are large model agnostics because GPT is built off of large models, and some that are not. So a lot of it comes down to our subject matter experts that I talk about, which is everyone from my developers to my chief science officer. We consider them all subject matter experts. And basically what they do is through things like QA lifecycle training, through user session observation, through content filtering, through lots of different methods, which some that sound really confusing that really aren't as confusing as they seem. They basically have taught and trained Emma to help women in the way that we want her to. So Emma really understands how she works with these people. So that's how we use ChatGPT. It's an element of her brain because of the APIs. And you guys can all do that as well. So you don't have to build a bot from the ground up, right? So like Emma is, the AI Companion is my entire company. She's the entire experience. But you can also start using ChatGPT in your daily job. And that's what I'm really trying to talk with people about right now, is I don't want people to get left behind this AI revolution. You can just go to ChatGPT and you can ask things like, I wrote this paragraph on my company's mission, make it shorter, make it more precise, and make it more empathetic. And ChatGPT will help you do that, honestly, faster than you can do yourself, because it thinks faster than a brain, because it's a machine. So
I love this, love this kind of breakdown here. So let's talk about some of the misconceptions around AI and ChatGPT. I know, I feel like when some of us hear about AI, we picture like the rise of the machines and we'll be replaced and blah, blah. And I don't think that that's necessarily what we're really talking about here. So let's talk about, you know, what are some of the misconceptions that people have, and what should they have clarity on? I very much love that distinction that like machines are not human, they're human-like. So can you expand on this for us?
yes. So I think that is the point, is that that machines are not humans, that they're human-like. I think that's the most important thing to remember. I think the other thing is we do have to be realistic, and we don't have a crystal ball. Which means that we can't predict the future. So we don't really know what's coming. The other thing to keep in mind is things that are created for good can often be weaponized, and technology is no different than everything else, than the food that's on your plate, than the medicines that's in your cabinet, to the hospital that you walk into, right? So I think what we need to do as a society is two things. The first thing that we need to do is we need to all educate ourselves. So learn about generative AI, start playing with it, start seeing how it can empower you in your own job, become an expert in it so that your own workplace has to come to you when all of a sudden they're trying to figure out, how to do something faster, become the expert. It also means that you're educated to where those possible weaponizing things could possibly happen. And then the other thing is, obviously, we all need government bodies and regulation happening the same way that the medicine in your cabinet is regulated and the food on your plate is regulated. So it is important that we do that, and that we look to our governments to really do that. I think for me, my prediction is kind of what I gave at the very beginning, that everyone is going to be conversing and or improving their daily life and most likely their job experiences with generative AI. That's not going away. That's the only thing I can guarantee you, is the way that the internet stuck around and the way that the internet now involves us 24/7 is exactly what's going to happen with generative AI. Just this morning, I saw an announcement from Facebook, from Meta, that they are moving away from the metaverse and doubling down on AI, on generative AI in particular. No surprise. I don't know why he didn't do it earlier. So we're definitely all going to see that. So just start educating yourself and figuring out how you can use it just to make yourself more efficient, and then you'll be ahead of the curve.
I like this. I really, really like this. We got a really interesting question from the audience asking, could empathetic AI be used to provide emotional support to people who are struggling with mental health issues? As somebody who lives with bipolar type 2, I am incredibly interested in this answer. What do you think that balance is? Is the empathy secondary to, to the informational capacities of Emma? Or do you think that this would be an appropriate use case?
No, I think the empathy in particular is core to Emma. And I actually think empathy probably needs to be core to a lot of the AI that's coming out right now that isn't. I think the other thing that needs to be core to the AI that we create that sometimes I'm not seeing is, it's important that the value proposition and the purpose of the AI is understood and it's created aligned to that. So like, we all saw, at least in my opinion, it was negative. We saw what Sydney did, right? Which was Microsoft's, that came out that said some things about the human race and other things that I found to be particularly creepy, if that's the right way to say it. But the reason why is I believe that Sydney came out without guardrails, meaning that she wasn't told, or I don't think it's a she, I don't want to give an identification like we do, but I think it was told, like, just go for it, like, go buck wild, think on your own, do what, like, take all the information and process everything, which you could do. But like, Emma would never do that, right? Emma was built with empathy in her mind. Emma would never tell you what type of Tylenol to give to your baby. Like, she was built as a generalist. Like, she knows what her purpose is. Her purpose is just to make you feel supported and get to the answer that you need faster so that you feel less stressed and anxious, and to make your life happier and healthier. Like, it's a very simple purpose that she was brought to. And that's why I think that there is no question that empathy is at her core, but also that she is going to make people feel completely supported, whether it's their mental health, their physical health, or their emotional health, because she was built to do that. That is her purpose, and that is the result that you get from working with her. So she's not going to replace a mental health professional, but she's going to empathetically let you know that you're struggling with something mentally, and that finding a mental health professional would help. Doing an affirmation would help. Eating healthier would help. And that she's just there just to listen to you when you're feeling down at 4:00 in the morning.
I think that is absolutely wonderful. It's giving me very strong, like Baymax living in 2020, in 3023 vibes. I absolutely love this idea.
We're all in the future. It is bizarre. It is so bizarre.
I'm serious. If you had told me 15 years ago this is where we were going to be, I seriously would have been like, no, we're not. We're idiots. We're crawling along.
15 years ago. my own team 16 months ago, I would say like, I need this button. And they'd be like, no, 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 no. Like this is going to happen. I'd be like, machine can't do that. And then they would code it. And 2 days later they would show me. And it was shocking. It was
It's
shocking.
baffling. It's so cool though, right?
Yeah.
All right. So Lenny is also asking in chat here, do you have any recommended books or material for people who want to become more educated on generative AI?
Oh gosh, that's well, we've not announced this yet, but we are actually in 30 days announcing, I'm going to put a link in the chat right now. I'm just grabbing it. We are announcing that we are going to be starting a podcast, which is just about AI for females. Please, men, listen. It's not that we don't want you to listen. It's just that the AI that we create specifically helps women because they want things often to be more empathetic and things like that. But I just put in the chat a company that I believe is the absolute leaders of computational intelligence. Anything that they put out is going to be cutting edge. They have classes, they have like plenty of stuff. And I would say anything like set up your, I can't believe I'm going to say this because I actually think Emma's going to do it better for you soon, but set up your, what are they called? Your Google alerts around this company. Also OpenAI, obviously anything that's coming because OpenAI created ChatGPT, anything that comes off of them, I think is really great. And then I think over the next couple of months, we'll start to see like the TikTok influencers to follow. And that right now, I don't know any of them off of the top of my head, but I've seen a couple that are really great. So take a look at Wolfram Alpha and then OpenAI, and then please follow Emma. I'm going to put it right here. This is our Instagram. I think it's our Instagram handle. I don't even know. Clearly I'm not marketing, but I think that's what it is. And then when we come out with ours, we'd love for you all to just follow and listen to how we build Emma to help females.
Yes, yes, yes. Love this. Okay, so let's talk about the continued evolution that you are kind of projecting. What do you think that Emma's going to look like a year from now? Are there any changes you're particularly excited about or things that y'all are starting to explore?
Yeah, so Emma's moving really fast because users are learning how to use her in ways that we didn't even envision, right? So they're using her for not just building hospital bag checklists, but they want to know if we can put it in their bye baby cart, right? Or they're asking us to track her period and then let them know if they see indicators of PCOS. So things that we always thought Emma would do, but users want it a lot faster. So I think what's going to end up happening is I think that Emma is going to replace a lot of the apps that are on a female's phone. Like you won't need a period tracker. You won't need a grocery store builder. You won't need any of that because Emma will do it all for you intuitively. And then what I would love to see is that Emma's not just on the app on your phone, but that one day Emma's everywhere, meaning Emma will take you over to Bye Bye Baby's website, but then we'll also be on Bye Bye Baby's website. So you can ask other things like, does the American Pediatric Association think that this bamboo mattress is good for breathing and all the other stuff that, moms or dads would ask in areas like that of the internet.
Absolutely love this. All right, so I've grabbed the links that y'all shared with us. In the last 30 seconds, if people are only going to remember one thing from today's event, what do you want it to be?
I mean, it is generative AI is going to change the way that you work and the way that you live at home and the way that you are healthier and happier. And just jump in the seat and don't be afraid and start learning about it the way that like when people said like, I'm never going to get an email or use the internet. Well, we all saw what happened. So don't be one of those people and just start learning about it so that you don't get left behind. And you can also make your life a lot easier and more efficient too. So you'll start loving it. And if you know absolutely nothing, go to ChatGPT, which they have an aspect that's free, and start just talking to them, or just download Emma and you can talk to Emma completely for free and start to see what it's like to chat with a bot like her.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Amanda. It has been wonderful to get to learn from you today. This has been absolutely great. Thank you so much for your time.